Hi, and welcome to our webinar entitled New California Compliance Issue for Remote Companies. Please note that this is a compliance issue that is federal, but because we're a California law firm, we're going to speak specifically to California business owners or small business owners that have employees in California. So, the issue is that California has given remote companies or companies who verified I-9s remotely, so they had remote employees, or they just weren't able to see people in person due to COVID-19. The federal government has given companies a deadline of end of July to get in compliance on this very important issue. So today, what we're going to talk about is what exactly is Form I-9. You may have heard of it, you may have seen it, you may have even touched it or handled it, but you don't know exactly what it is. What changed during COVID-19 versus what is changing now, how to respond to this change, and then areas to be concerned about. We'll do some FAQs and then also how to get continuing help once this call is over. All right, so let's launch right in. My name is Valerie Gonzalez. I'm the owner and principal attorney of San Gabriel Valley Law. We are a law firm based out of California, specifically Pasadena, but we work remotely with companies all over the nation who have California employees. Our firm focuses completely and solely on protecting small business owners from employee lawsuits. Prior to becoming an employer defense attorney, I was a human resources professional for over a decade in my first career, primarily focusing on hotels and corporate headquarters. And what this did was allow me to see how employee problems start out small, but then spiral out of control if not addressed correctly into legal problems. And so the whole point and the whole goal and my whole mission in my practice now as an employment attorney is to protect small business owners from those employee issues that turn into legal issues and end up devastating your business. So a huge part of what we do is education, which includes this webinar. We found that small business owners like ourselves are busy, we're tired, we have a lot of priorities, and keeping up with the ever-changing laws is not one of them. So we take great pride in keeping you educated. In my spare time, I am a mother. I'm a small business owner. I am newly married, and I'm a huge sports fan. So I love, you can find me at the soccer field or at the baseball park any day of the week. All right, let's dive in. Enough about me. So what is Form I-9? Form I-9 is the document that the federal government has identified for us as business owners to utilize in order to verify that our employees are eligible to work in the United States. That form requires us to take documents that does exactly this, verifies that. There are 3 lists, A, B, and C. In those lists, it tells us the documents that are acceptable for us to take in order to verify eligibility to work. And that means, simply put, somebody is legally authorized to work. That can be through citizenship or through other processes or documentation like permanent residency and work permits. One really important thing about that form is that the person filling it out attests that they have seen the proof that this person is eligible to work in the United States. They attest to it. And being a federal document, they are on the hook, the business is on the hook, if this proves to be untrue, or they accept documents that they should have known to be false. So something really important that changed during COVID, I mean, what didn't change during COVID, right? But for companies during COVID that weren't remote already, you know, a lot of us didn't see our employees for a very long time, and we continued to hire or onboard people, or we're in the process of onboarding people when the country shut down. And so we onboarded people remotely. Others of us have always had remote companies, and so this continued business as usual, onboarding remote employees. But something really crucial that happened was that um, the federal requirements to verify documents in person, because that was the requirement. You had to verify and attest that you saw the documents and they were legit. So during COVID, that restriction lifted, and now we could verify them remotely. So over Zoom, just like this. Um, on a web call just like this. You could verify it, and then you could fill out the attestation form, and you were a-okay. You could check that box. You were good to go. And so during COVID, that was a wonderful modification that they made and allowed. And that's part of what allowed for a lot of remote companies to grow and flourish, because they were able to do that, and they were able to continue to onboard without interruption. So this is the whole point of our webinar. The government has let us know that time is up, and that restriction or accommodation is no longer allowed. So we are going back to the old way that we did it. Now we have to actually physically see the documents in person in order to properly attest and fill out the I-9 form. Now, some of you may be thinking, yeah, but what if I don't, right? There's always a few in the group who are like, yeah, but what if I don't? You risk takers out there. Well, if you don't, you risk government audit. You always risk that, actually. I worked in many facilities that had government audits by ICE. And they went in, they audited our I-9s. And if they find that you're employing people without verifying documents, or you're accepting fake documents, or you're not filling out the I-9 correctly, you can be fined and shut down. And this is extreme. You put yourself at risk, you put your employees at risk. It's a very serious thing to disregard the federal government's mandate. So I don't recommend it. So this change is implemented, or is going to affect now, and we have until August 1st, so the end of July, to make this change. That means, here's the change. That means that you must go back and look at every I-9 that you verified remotely. So every I-9 that you verified remotely, and recertify them. That means re-verify that people are eligible to work lawfully in the United States by seeing their documents in person. That is the big change, and it has to be implemented by the end of this month, July. So it is due by August 1st. And then going forward, every employee that you hire, whether you're a remote company or not, you need to verify their documents in person. Okay. So how do we respond to this? Because this is big, right? Especially for some of us who have remote companies, or we have companies all over the country, and we're across the country from them. So here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that you review all I-9s that you've processed, whether remote or not, since 2020, just to be safe. Review all of them, especially if you have a larger company, or if you've delegated this task to other people. Review all of the employees you've onboarded and all of their I-9s, and make sure that they are filled out correctly, and that their documents, that they were filled out correctly. Then also pull all of the I-9s of all remote employees, regardless of hire date. And those are the ones that you're going to want to go back and recertify. Recertify again means re-verify their documents. So the second thing I recommend is just that, to identify all of the I-9s that were remotely verified and recertify all of them. This will ensure that there are no gaps, that there are nobody falling through the cracks, so that if and when ICE does audit, you can be confident that you will pass that audit. So anyone who was remotely verified, anyone who received documents remotely, will need to be recertified. What does recertification look like? It means getting the documents again in person, following the form and the requirements on the form, listing out which documents you're verifying, and signing and attesting that they are actual and legit. Okay. And then the last thing we recommend is to review the current I-9 verification process for all your remote employees going forward. So those of you who, COVID, it opened up the whole world of, I could hire anybody in any state, and that's a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing, but you need to ensure that your process going forward can keep up with the law. And so if you are hiring all over the country, you need to get a plan of action in place for how you're going to onboard and how you're going to fulfill this requirement of seeing documents in person. Some areas to be concerned about. So employers have a responsibility to ensure employees are legally authorized to work in the United States. That's our employer responsibility. And by filling out the I-9, we're saying exactly that we have verified this and we are signing off on it. That's why if we do it wrong, we can be subject to fines and penalties and audit. But some things to be concerned about: employees who have expired documents. So what could happen is that when you go to recertify, meaning you ask your employee to bring their documents, now their documents are expired. This is a violation of the I-9 form. You cannot accept documents that are expired. And this is very serious. This would affect their eligibility to work in the United States. If that happens, you should absolutely consult a lawyer, because it could mean that you need to terminate your employee, but you want to be really careful how you do that and if you do that. The second thing is that you need to be concerned about employees who will now not show you their documents. So maybe they've been working for you for 2 years and you ask for the documents and they don't want to show you. I already showed it to you. I already did that. Why do you need to see it again? Well, remember our employer responsibility. It's our responsibility to ensure that employees are lawfully working. So if employees will not show their documents, that impedes our responsibility. And so we need to consult a lawyer at that point about what to do next, because it can mean the difference between government compliance and not. And that is not who we want to cross in this scenario. It could mean that an employee does need to be terminated. But you do need to consult counsel on that. The third thing is employees who remotely verified their I-9 and have terminated since. So if you remotely verified an I-9 and that person no longer works for you, there's a special process that you have to follow in order to be in compliance. And so you need to consult an attorney in your area who can help advise you on what to do in that regard. All right, here are some frequently asked questions, okay? What if the employee presents a different but still acceptable document at the time of physical inspection? So what if they bring different documents than what they really had at the time that they were hired? All right, 2 options. If they bring acceptable documents, but they're different, there's a specific section on the form, section 2, and it'll denote it there that you would fill out, and you would provide the document information, the title, the new document information, and just notate that it was brought to you for physical inspection. So that's perfectly fine to do. What if the document was valid during remote inspection and now expired during physical inspection? So exactly the scenario we talked about. What if it was valid at one point and it's not valid now? So as long as the employee's document was unexpired at the time of remote inspection, we don't need to request a new document, and we can proceed with the physical inspection that we just talked about. So we don't have to request new documents in that case. Okay. There's a ton more to this. I'm sure there's a lot of questions that we have going around. We will do our best to answer them, but this is a big issue, and it's a big issue that needs to be at the top of your list, but it's just one of many issues. California and the federal government are constantly changing when it comes to worker issues, labor issues. Our climate is rapidly changing, and you need to be on the forefront of it. If you're not, you're behind. And if you're behind, you're at great risk of penalties and lawsuits. So give us a call, schedule a strategy session with us, mention this call, and you'll receive a special discount on strategy sessions. Let us know that you came from here, and we'll make sure that you receive that special discount. And we'll make sure that you don't have to worry any longer about all of the laws and all of the things that are constantly changing in the federal government in California. We'll join your team and help you stay protected and help you sleep at night. So give us a call, 818-949-8029, or feel free to reach out to us at our email, hello@sangabrielvalleylaw.com. As I've mentioned, we serve small business owners exclusively. They are our mission and our heart's mission. So if you're a small business owner with California employees and you're sick and tired of worrying that you're one lawsuit away from losing it all, or you're sick and tired of having no time to keep up with this stuff, please let us partner with you. Give us a call.